By now you know that Destiny 2 is coming to its end of service, and the future of Destiny as a franchise is rather unknown. There wasn't any announcement of a D3 or any other Destiny projects in work. It was just kind of Destiny's ending of service, and that's happening on June 9th, and they're launching a bunch of content that they had made for it. And so in this video, I kind of want to talk about my experience a bit with Destiny, how I feel about this, and kind of talk a bit about how it kind of got me into content creation in the first place, as a deep rabbit hole. So that's where I want to start. I want to start with how Destiny kind of was a catalyst that led me to where I am today, where I post on YouTube. And as much as my videos don't get much views, and I'm not going to claim that I'm the greatest YouTuber, but I wouldn't be uploading today if it wasn't because of Destiny and something I did years and years and years ago. So the first time I ever made content online, I went under a very, very different alias. I went underneath two different aliases, actually. Sorry about that noise in the background. I went under Crimson DXD for a hot minute, and then I swapped over and I went to Malfeasance. Basically Malfeasance, but the E and the A were swapped. And why am I mentioning this? Why does that matter? Why is that important? Well, to put it simply and to put it bluntly, I started making content as a really, really shitty, really, really small Instagram account where I think I ended up having a couple thousand followers. And that is kind of what kicked off my whole interest in making content in the first place. One of my favourite videos I ever made back in that prime was not too long after the Shattered Throne dungeon was released, and it was a video of it's an old video online. I'll see if I can find it and I'll put it on overlay here. But it's essentially this one guy doing a little dance, then pointing down to two versions of him, and he does that same thing over and over and over, and just points down to more and more little ones of him dancing. And I captioned it saying something like Shattered Throne Scions when you breathe, or something along those lines. And I thought it was really funny, and it did really well. It got like 13k views, and that's, one of the first videos I ever made. That video kind of sparked into a really, really big interest into making content online and to making videos, and interest in, even if it was short form content creation, just content creation in general. Now, I went through many, many phases of content creation. I went through that Destiny phase. After a while of uploading content based on Destiny, I branched out to other games that I was really, really interested in. This was around the 2020s when Halo Infinite was coming out, and so I branched into a bit of Halo. I did some Rainbow throughout this time. I did a little bit of Overwatch. I kind of just did anything that I was really, really enjoying at the time. But the catalyst of all of this started back in Destiny, and again, if it wasn't for me making Destiny and kind of finding that passion, I wouldn't be making these type of videos today. But that's enough about my content creation. And I know it's kind of small and irrelevant, but it's just something I wanted to mention, how Destiny as a franchise kind of put me into this position today, where even now, 12 years since Destiny first released, well, almost 12 years, I still want to create content, and I started creating content 8 years ago. It's kind of crazy to put into perspective. I've been a Bungie fan pretty much my entire life. One of my very, very first and one of my biggest core memories that I will always cherish with me for my entire life was when I was probably about 6 would be my guess. I'm 23 right now, for the record. I was 10 when Destiny came out. And one of those core memories that I have was I was sat down on my bed, sat with my dad, as my dad was playing through Halo Combat Evolved. And specifically, he was playing the second mission of Halo Combat Evolved called Halo. And this is where my spark for Bungie and Halo, to be fair, just kind of began. It was that one point in the mission where you activate the light bridge and you see it come online, and you have this really, really cool moment of seeing the hard light bridge, hum to life. And it was really, really cool to witness. And pretty much since that moment onward, I have always loved Bungie and kept up to date with whatever they were producing. A couple years later, or actually around about that year, I remember being at my grandmother's, and they had 2 living rooms, I know, it's whatever. I was in one of the living rooms, I was by myself, and I just wanted to chill for a little bit, so I was sat in there, and I was playing a bit of Halo 3. My mum came home after being out, and she handed me the Halo 3 ODST disc, And that is, again, something I'll cherish forever, as I proceeded to play through that entire game in that one weekend. I remember talking to my dad after about it and saying how I played through all of it, and he was super duper shocked, given last time he talked to me, it was when they gave me the game. That kind of sounds like I don't talk to my parents. I want to say, for the record, I basically just fucking isolated myself in that room and just grinded the living shit out of Halo 3. The same thing happened a couple years later when it came around to Halo Reach, what my dad kindly enough pre-ordered for me, and I absolutely bashed the living hell out of that game. Same with Halo 4, obviously that was by 343. But essentially, when I found out that Bungie had left and was left Microsoft and were making a new game under a new title, and that there was teasers for this new game in previous games, like in Halo 3 there used to be posters that said, I believe, Destiny 08's on, what's quite funny. But I remember seeing these, and I remember them completely catching my attention and thinking, whatever that is, I want to play. And then I saw some of the teaser trailers and the trailers and stuff for Destiny. I saw the cover art of Destiny 1. I have the Xbox 360 version of it right now, blue tacked to my wall. But I remember seeing the cover art, and I remember seeing the back of the Hunter and the logo, and it's saying Destiny, and you can see the Traveler, you can see the Warlock and the Titan. It's just, it oozed Source. And I knew right then in that minute, I needed to get my hand on that game. And so I waited for it. By the time the betas came around, I played them, and by the time it came around to full release, I pre-ordered it. I proceeded to play Destiny pretty much non-stop until until I physically couldn't. Every single day I got back from school, Destiny was the first thing I was booting up, and every single night it was the last thing that I was doing. Destiny, as a franchise, has helped me through a lot of tough times. I've had countless times in my life where something has happened, whether it be I'm going through a breakup, or something's going on with other people I know, and some family business or whatever. The one thing that I would always end up doing was to take my mind off of it. I was booting up Destiny. Now, yeah, the first few months of Destiny 1 were a little rough. You had, raid teams would refuse you if you weren't rocking Galley, and then Crota came around, and that was awesome. I will say that was a very cool DLC. And then Prison of Elders, and that DLC, House of Wolves, came around, and I remember being slightly disappointed because there wasn't any raid. TTK came around, and what a fucking DLC that was. That's probably the highlight of one of the highlights of my time playing Destiny, was being able to experience all of TTK. And then Rise of Iron came around, and one of my absolute all-time favourite summers, or moments of my life, was coming home from school, booting up onto Overwatch and playing that for a couple hours, and then booting onto Destiny and doing Wrath. Finishing Wrath, feeling great, going to play a bit of Crucible. I could sit here and I could talk about my memories of Destiny forever, but I don't want to do that here. Destiny 2 comes around, launch is rough, let us not lie. It wasn't the greatest thing ever. I love you, Midnight Q, you absolutely fucking carried me. Then Forsaken came around. Forsaken is probably, even to this day, my favourite time during Destiny. That entire year was non-stop playing. I have a Destiny 2 Forsaken poster on my wall that is so old, it still says Activision on it. Forsaken is probably my most important year of Destiny, and you kind of get the story going forward. But when we're talking about this, as I said, Destiny has been in my life pretty much... but Destiny has been in my life longer than it hasn't been. And that's kind of something absolutely wild to say, let alone put on paper. And I feel like a lot of people watching this is probably, around that same age, early 20s, who can say they're probably the same thing. They picked up Destiny back in 2016, 2015, 2018, 2019, whatever, and Destiny has had this absolutely massive impact on them as a person. And so it's kind of surreal when I opened Twitter the other day, and the first thing I saw was a blog post saying that Destiny is closing and end of service. Now, Bungie does have a bit of a history, specifically with Halo and now Destiny, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes on to happen with Marathon or whatever game they produce afterward, where they support a game or a franchise for a really, really long time, and then just kind of out of nowhere drop it. And again, this isn't necessarily me taking shade at Bungie. I'm sure there are many, many behind-the-scenes factors, especially since that there are so many things, like small things, that like Bungie employees have been saying and have said about Destiny, and how they wanted to continue working on it, but they haven't because of X, Y, and Z. Though obviously we could sit here and speculate 100 different reasons why this happened. Maybe it was Pete Parsons' fault for bluffing up Bungie for when they wanted to sell it to Sony. Maybe it's Sony's fault for having such a high idealistic idea of what Bungie could be. But I'm not here to do that. I'm here to talk about Destiny. And I really, really don't think if you gave me a million words, I could truly sit here and summarize how I truly feel about Destiny. It's one of those things where you just kind of feel it in your heart, and that's how you know you like something. Like I said earlier in the video, Destiny has been there with me through pretty much every single hardship of my life, and although I don't love what the game has become over the last year or so, pretty much since the final shape is finished, I will still always be able to cherish the game. You know, I always said in my mind and to my friends that, you know, after the final shape finished, Destiny should have ended, yet here we are, Destiny's ending, and I just feel like it wasn't enough time. I made a post on Twitter about it, actually, the other day. A couple of screenshots of Destiny 1, and I captioned it simply saying, and all of a sudden, a decade doesn't feel long enough. And it's weird to say that, and it's weird to think that, because if you look at so many other live service games, or games that are out there right now, and games that are popular, and franchises, and this, that, and the other, so many of them don't even get a fraction of 10 years. I feel like the amount of games that have been going for longer than a decade, and franchises that have been going longer than a decade, if they haven't already got pre-existing titles like GTA, or like Halo, or like Forza, or Gears, and it was just one game and they just randomly dropped it, and ta-da, here it is, it would be really, really hard to look at it objectively and say, this game lasted X, Y, Z years. Like, do I think a game like Arc Raiders is going to last a decade? Probably not. Do I think even a game like Marathon is going to last a decade? Probably not. Rivals? Probably not. Helldivers already had a previous game beforehand. And by the way, when I'm talking about Destiny, I'm talking about Destiny as an IP, because Destiny 2, fun fact, was never even meant to fucking happen. That was an Activision request. That's my fun fact for the day. Bungie didn't want to do D2. They just wanted to have Destiny 1 and carry it for a decade, and then Activision made them do D2. Grrr. But it's interesting now that I say that, and now I remind myself about Destiny being to go for a decade, because it's actually outlasted longer than it was meant to. It was kind of funny, actually, when you think about it. Destiny was meant to end probably about 2 years ago, but it didn't, because they had 2 filler years, you know. Lightfall was a bit of a filler year. Destiny 2 launch was very odd. I don't want to necessarily call that a filler year, because there was interesting stuff that happened, but none of it is necessarily relevant to today. And even Edge of Fate and that whole year and Renegades, this is kind of just whatever. Do I think Destiny could have been saved, should have been saved, and probably should live another decade? Maybe. I don't know. But I think the story that they were trying to tell with Destiny being the Light and Dark saga finished, and I do believe that they should have finished it afterward. It still sucks to say, and it still sucks to think that this time next month, Destiny won't have anything new coming in a couple months to look forward to. But one thing with Destiny, pretty much since TFS released, was I always wanted them to give me a reason to log in, and they never did. Thankfully, I am a marathon enjoyer, so I will still be able to get my Bungie fix, but it's still so surreal to sit here and say that Destiny is finished, and actually finished. The other day, when I first read the blog, I remember just sitting there for a minute and literally verbally shouting, holy shit, like 5 times. I couldn't believe that. To be honest, I still can't believe it. I can't believe that we're here a few days later and there's no internal confirmation of D3 or a new Destiny project or anything. The only piece of Destiny media going forward, once it comes to June 9th, is fucking Destiny Rising. I really don't know, man. I love what Bungie created. I love Destiny. I'll always hold it in a special place in my heart, but to say it's ending is just so fucking surreal. If there's anybody at Bungie or any Destiny fans watching this who love the universe, love the game that they created, I right in that boat with you. I love Destiny. It's by far the most invested I've ever been in any type of universe. I love what Bungie created, and I really, really hope that Sony or Bungie manage to get an opportunity to make Destiny 3. Hopefully it won't be a marathon situation where you have to wait 20 years to get a sequel and it's just going to be some random fucking trend chasing. No offense, again, that's no offense to marathon. I am a thorough enjoyer, but if you're a 90s marathon fan, you're probably not a biggest fan of new marathon, but I love Destiny. I will always love Destiny, and it will always carry a special place in my heart.